website settings.
Some of this misrepresentation. Worst one of them all. It is. There's no coming back from it.
Misrepresentation, yeah, and it's so vague. What are we misrepresenting? The price, location, the anything here. There is we're gonna be yeah, they tell you nothing exactly. We're gonna be covering call tracking metrics. I don't know if we've actually introduced call tracking metrics yet. Call tracking metrics is a tool that allows you to listen and score phone calls and import those phone calls back into Google Ads. It's there's only one agency we've ever known on the planet that does this, besides us. But the tool call tracking metrics here, and this goes into website settings, and I'll show you why it's a little bit of a roundabout way, but you can't get to the end until I explain this part first. Call tracking metrics, us as an agency, we listen and manually score every single phone call. The reason why this is important is because you may have people that call to place an order, especially for higher ticket items. Higher ticket items, this is a company that sells ophthalmic equipment, and they have items that are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to $90,000 in value. And you can have people that want to call and talk and place an order because it might be a $12, $15, $2,000 item. You might not have that today, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be coming, drop shipping more expensive, larger furniture. And that could be enough for someone to say like, yeah, I'd like to call because what about the warranty if it rips? How do you guys handle that? Blah, 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 blah. So we have this, this one's called Smart Shopping High number 2. This high campaign starts at $30,000 and above. We know that June 1st, 2 days ago, someone called and placed an order. So we're going to be able to import this into Google Ads. What we're going to be showing you, and I forget exactly which day it is, but we're going to show you how to launch and set this up so that you can track all phone orders. And phone orders, like if let's just say in the last month, if we look at the 5-star calls here, we've had 19 calls last month that people placed orders. And what's cool about this is a lot of found business, especially when you're running smart shopping. If someone calls and places an order, there could be legitimately $100,000 in value here that needs to be seen inside of Google Ads. Now, why this I'm touching upon this now, because website settings, if you have this issue, this is something that you're going to need to be able to fix. You can't have, and I'll go to ours here. You can't have a phone number that is hidden from Google. And when I say phone number hidden from Google, it doesn't mean that it's not visible. It means you can't highlight it like this. If you have a phone number here that's not highlightable, like if it's stuck in an image, then your website could be misrepresentation. I doubt that anyone here has this because Shopify, and it is what I imagine majority of you are on, besides Glenn, that I know for sure. But we've taken a lot of clients on that have their phone number feature something like this, where it's an image, and Google can't read an image. So that does not count as a phone number. Also, when you want to run call tracking metrics dynamically rolls the number if it comes from paid traffic. It's really, really cool, but it can only dynamically roll if it's highlightable. I'll show you what I mean by this. You see this here, 7658. Watch this. If I start a new window and say $gclid equals test, the phone number is now 1023. So you see the difference here between 7658 and 1023. We're going to show you how to do this. It will dynamically roll the number if it's coming from paid traffic, so that your standard number looks standard to direct, organic, referral, email, yada, yada, yada. But if a person comes from paid traffic specifically, it rolls the number into a new number instantaneously. And that allows you to listen and track all phone calls and then place those order values back into Google Ads. Now, this is the masterclass. This is next level stuff. And you might say, well, I don't need it. It doesn't mean that you don't need it in the future. Because if you do start to get phone calls, and those phone calls will be like, yeah, can I just place an order with you now? But yeah, absolutely. What's your credit card, blah, blah, blah. And you take those phone orders, Google's going to miss that. They're not going to see it. When you're running target ROAS, it needs to see the ROAS. And a phone call doesn't give Google the ROAS. It just gives it a conversion with 0 value. You didn't meet your deadline that day. So spend less. So to make sure that you can capture all monetary value and import that back into Google Ads, we're going to show you that. But the website settings first has to make sure that that number is visibly seen in a text format, HTML format, not an image format, just as a side note. So again, this is what the masterclass is about, is those kind of high level things. If it applies to you, great. Make sure that it's done before we continue on with this class, because you're going to run into that issue. We already covered contact requirements, which is those 3 items. Now, suspension risks. This is, again, something we touched upon lightly, but I want to touch upon a little bit more. The suspension risks on a site, and I'll just do like purposeful baskets here. The suspension risks are, number 1, we didn't add our 4 pieces of legal into the sitemap. So the sitemap essentially means navigation. We have home and shop. This is our dummy website. But down here, this would be the sitemap. You need to have it either in the header or the footer, somewhere linkable. So I didn't have time to kind of go through website development on the 3x Shopify, but you need to make sure that the refund policy, privacy policy, shipping policy, and terms of service, or whatever you wanted to call these, are found somewhere in a link. Just because you have them in legal on Shopify means they're on your site. They are visible from Google, but it doesn't mean Google's going to find it. The way that Google finds it is it essentially tries to go to /sitemap.xml and says, well, is it visible here? Nope, not visible here. It's not available. So this, as an example, if it's not in the sitemap here, Google's not going to be able to find it. It needs to be physically linked in a button click. So when it's physically linked in a button click, Google will be able to find it, and then you'll be compliant. So the suspension risk of misrepresentation, that's one of them here. Again, they don't tell you this. It took weeks for us to figure this out, and that's why I want to share with you here. A clickable footer, I wouldn't put it in your header. Like, no one really cares about the refund policy or the shipping policy in the header. That's not what they're looking at when they're shopping with you, but Google needs it, and then people also do want to find it. So that's going to be the number one issue that I would say is making sure. The payment options down here, again, doesn't need to be visible in your footer, but does need to be visible on your checkout pages. So payment options that are not visible on your checkout pages or in the footer, misrepresentation. Again, that's going to be another suspension risk. So not a lot of people know that. Shopify does, so that's why they default it there. Most themes come with it. If you have a custom theme that doesn't have that, make sure you do. Make sure these are also actually verifiably checked out. We are actually in non-compliance right here because I don't think that we take Venmo. That's a suspension risk. I would have to have my website developer remove Venmo. I'd have to have my website developer remove, I think this one's Apple, or is that, Shop Pay. Making sure that your payment options are that are featured are the ones that can check out, because Google will say that we've attempted to check out but could not pay with Apple Pay, or we couldn't pay with the payment method. You are suspended. It is so ridiculous. But again, we got to play by the rules because we're in their ecosystem.